Okay, so we're going to be talking about power today.
Okay.
And specifically, we're going to be diving into Robert Greene's Law 7 from his book, The 48 Laws of Power.
Okay.
Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
Hmm.
And before everyone's thinking like, oh, there he is. There's the host in his villain outfit.
Right.
You know, hear me out on this one. This isn't about being Machiavellian
Right.
or stepping on people to get ahead.
Ah.
It's about understanding a very fundamental truth about how things get done.
Right.
And honestly, it's a bit more nuanced than the title lets on.
Yeah, I think people hear that and they think tyrant. Be a tyrant, step on people, crush them. It's really about strategy and leverage and recognizing that great achievements are very rarely the work of just one person.
Exactly. It's more about being like a conductor than a dictator. Right. So how about we dive into a real life example, right? Think back to the late 1800s. Electricity, the new hotness. We've got these two giants battling it out, Tesla and Edison.
This is a textbook case of this law.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but with different outcomes.
Okay.
Yeah, on the one hand, you have Tesla, who is this genius inventor, groundbreaking ideas.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you have Edison, who is a savvy businessman.
Okay.
Who was a master at leveraging the talents of those around him.
Okay.
Sometimes admittedly to a fault.
So set the scene for us. Tesla gets to America,
Yeah.
practically steps off the boat,
Yeah.
and lands a job with Edison himself.
Right.
Talk about a dream come true.
Right. Well, Edison being the savvy businessman, that he was offered Tesla a hefty sum to improve his direct current electrical system.
Okay.
Which is what they were working on at the time.
Yeah.
And Tesla, ever the dedicated engineer,
Right.
threw himself into the work.
Yeah, and he delivered.
He did.
He redesigned the system.
Yeah.
Made it significantly more efficient.
Yeah.
You'd think he'd be swimming in champagne and accolades, right?
Not exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So Tesla goes to collect his reward,
Mm-hmm.
and Edison famously just laughs and says, Tesla, you don't understand our American humor.
Ouch. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah, Tesla understandably felt betrayed, cheated.
Right.
He eventually left Edison's company and focused on developing his own system, alternating current, or AC.
Right. Which we all know as the winner of the current wars.
Right, exactly.
But here's the thing. Imagine if Tesla had understood Law 7 a little better. What if, instead of just focusing on the technical brilliance, he'd also been savvy about securing the recognition, the credit for all this?
It's a classic example of brilliance without strategy.
Right.
And it can lead to being overlooked.
Yeah.
And conversely, Edison, despite perhaps lacking Tesla's raw genius, understood how to navigate the levers of power.
Right.
How to build a system that amplified his own influence.
So it's not just about the work itself.
Right.
It's about understanding the playing field.
Yes.
And making sure you're not just playing the game, but you're playing it smart.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important aspect of Law 7, which Greene illustrates beautifully with a rather charming fable.
A fable? You mean like a tortoise and the hare situation?
Not quite, although this one does also feature a tortoise.
Okay.
It's a fable from Zaire,
Okay.
and it involves an elephant, a hippopotamus, and a very clever tortoise.
I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
All right, so the tortoise wants to prove his strength
Okay.
to the elephant and the hippopotamus.
Okay.
Now, obviously, he can't win in a direct confrontation of strength, right?
Right, like me going up against a tank in a pushing contest.
Exactly. So instead, the tortoise uses his cunning. He challenges the elephant and the hippopotamus to a tug of war,
Oh.
but separately.
Okay.
He gives each of them one end of a very long rope,
Okay.
hides, and then yells, pull.
So they're both pulling, thinking they're competing against each other.
Precisely.
Okay.
They exhaust themselves trying to overpower this immovable force, not realizing that they're perfectly matched. The tortoise, meanwhile, sits back and watches, letting them do all the work.
And then I'm guessing swoops in at the end and takes credit for being stronger than both of them combined.
You got it. Now, while we wouldn't recommend this approach in a literal sense,
Right.
think about what this fable is really telling us.
Okay.
It's about working smarter, not harder. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most effective path to success is through strategic delegation.
Strategic delegation, because it reminds of another example Greene uses, the painter Peter Paul Rubens.
Ah, yes.
Right.
Rubens, a master of Law 7 in his own right.
So was he delegating his paintings out?
He ran his studio like a well-oiled machine.
Okay.
Employing a team of skilled assistants, each specializing in a different aspect of painting, from landscapes to drapery.
So it's like an art factory.
Exactly.
Wow.
Rubens understood that his genius wasn't just in his own hand, but it was in his ability to leverage the skills of others. He would create the initial sketch, the composition, and then delegate the rest to his team, overseeing the process, making sure the final product met his standards.
That's amazing. So he was basically like a one-man art movement, all thanks to his understanding of delegation.
Precisely. And this idea of building a system, of leveraging the talents of others, isn't limited to the art world. Think about any successful business or organization.
Right.
There's always a structure in place.
Yeah.
A division of labor that allows for efficiency and productivity.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
I love that. And that sense of going together, of building on a collective knowledge base, is crucial to understanding the full scope of Law 7. It's not just about the people around you right now.
Right.
But it's also about the giants who came before.
You mean like building on the work of those who paved the way for us?
Exactly. Think about Isaac Newton's famous quote, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." He understood that his discoveries were made possible by the centuries of knowledge and exploration that preceded him.
And it's not just science. I mean, look at literature, art, music, even Shakespeare, right? Borrowed plots and characters from history and mythology.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that we're all a part of this incredible continuum of knowledge and creativity.
Yeah.
And by tapping into that collective wisdom, by borrowing and building upon the work of those who came before us, we unlock incredible potential.
So it's not about taking credit in a vacuum.
Right.
It's about understanding that every accomplishment is, in a way, a collaboration.
Exactly.
Across time and space.
It's about recognizing the contributions of others, both present and past, and using those contributions as stepping stones to propel ourselves further.
So we've talked about, leveraging the work of our contemporaries, our predecessors, but is there ever a time when taking all the credit might backfire?
That's a brilliant question. Because as with most things, there's a flip side to Law 7.
Yeah.
Greene calls it the reversal. Sometimes being too greedy with credit, especially when you're not the one in the top position of power,
Right.
can be detrimental.
So knowing when to share credit is just as important as knowing when to claim it.
Absolutely. It's about understanding power dynamics and knowing when to be strategically generous.
Okay.
Right.
Right. So give us an example. Like, when might it be wiser to share or even deflect credit?
Well, Greene uses a fascinating example from the world of politics.
Okay.
Henry Kissinger and Richard Nixon, during the opening of relations with China.
Okay.
It was Kissinger who initially spearheaded this effort.
Right.
A very bold move at the time.
Yeah, Nixon wasn't exactly known for his
Right.
diplomacy.
True, but he was the president.
Right.
And Kissinger recognized that allowing Nixon to take the lion's share of the credit for this historic breakthrough would ultimately serve him better in the long run.
So it was a calculated move.
Yeah.
Understanding the power dynamics at play and choosing long-term gain over short-term ego gratification.
Precisely. Challenging your superior's claim to credit, especially when you're in a less powerful position,
Right.
can very often backfire.
Yeah.
It's about picking your battles.
Right.
And understanding that sometimes playing the long game yields greater rewards.
It's like that saying, the greatest chess players don't just focus on the next move, but on the moves 10 steps ahead.
Excellent analogy.
Thank you.
And speaking of strategy,
Right.
let's bring it back to our listeners.
Yeah.
How can we apply this nuanced understanding of Law 7 in our own lives and careers?
Right, because it's all well and good to talk about like Edison and Kissinger.
Right.
But how does this translate into actual actionable advice
Right.
for like the everyday person?
It starts with awareness.
Okay.
Recognize that this law is always in play, whether we're conscious of it or not.
Okay.
Pay attention to how credit is attributed in your workplace, in your personal projects, even in your social circles.
So be observant. See who's taking the lead, who's doing the work, and who's getting the recognition.
Exactly. Then ask yourself, how can I use this knowledge to my advantage? Ethically, of course.
Right.
Maybe it's about becoming more proactive and highlighting your contributions to a team effort.
So not necessarily like bragging,
Right.
but making sure that like your role is acknowledged.
Right.
From
Or perhaps it's about seeking out a mentor, someone further along the path you want to take.
Okay.
And learning how they navigate these dynamics. Remember, standing on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
Finding a mentor is a great way to apply that principle in a very practical way.
So leverage the experience of those who've already walked the path.
Precisely. Or maybe it's about building your own art factory, so to speak.
Right.
Creating a system that amplifies your efforts, whether it's through delegation, automation, strategic collaboration.
So Law 7 isn't just about personal gain.
Right.
It's about creating a structure
Yes.
for greater efficiency and productivity overall.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that success is rarely a solo endeavor.
Right.
It's about understanding the interconnectedness of our efforts and finding ways to leverage those connections to achieve remarkable things.
So to wrap things up, it seems like Law 7 is a bit like fire. It can be a powerful tool when used wisely
Yes.
and with caution, but it can also be incredibly destructive if it's misused.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah.
Awareness, strategy,
Yeah.
and a good dose of ethical consideration. Those are the keys to mastering this law.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the delicate balance of power, delegation, and credit. Remember, understanding the rules of the game, even the ones that might seem a bit ruthless at first glance, is crucial to navigating the world effectively. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and remember, knowledge is power.